And a few weeks ago I was in Florida, because we went to my mother and I went on a cruise to the Caribbean. And I thought it was kind of hot and muggy then, but it wasn't 102 degrees and muggy. How do you guys live down here? I see everybody's got air conditioning, nobody talks to each other because nobody's walking in the street, and everybody's locked away in their air-conditioned car or house or business. But in New England, everybody walks around. But if it gets to be 50 degrees in New England, people are wearing shorts. And I hear you guys saying, yeah, I get 70, 75, and people are putting on fur coats. We would love 75 in the middle of winter up there, where it's usually like 20 or 20 below. A couple of years ago, we had some wonderful global warming action in New Hampshire. 2 years ago, we had record level snows and record level cold. That's because, you know, everything that man does affects the temperature on the planet. So if it gets hot, it's because of global warming. If it gets cold, it's because of global warming. If it doesn't change, it's because of global warming. If the sea rises, it's because of global warming. If the sea levels fall, it's because of global warming. So basically, everything that is happening on this planet is simply because mankind has decided to use oil as its main power source. And that's evil. And it is so bad that 2 days ago I saw an article where California, one of the most regulated states in the country, has decided to do one step better. And as California goes, so eventually does the rest of the nation. Now, a few years ago, I heard of something that was happening in Australia. Australia was trying to bioengineer cows that didn't fart. Now, I thought that was funny at first, but then I thought, you know, one of these days they're going to say that cows are the problem of global warming and man is the problem because man eats cow, we eat steak, and we drink milk from cows. So 2 days ago, I saw a story online, and sure enough, they're now blaming cows. California is set to regulate how much cows can fart. Now, I don't know how you're going to do that. I don't know what commission or what commissioner is going to run around to farms with I guess you're going to have some sort of Geiger counter type of thing and say, no, your cows are farting too much, so we're going to have to, who are you going to find? You're going to find the farmer for the cow, or are you going to find the cow? And what's the cow going to pay if they fart too much? Now, we might think a lot of this is funny, and then we realize, wait a minute, this is happening not in some banana republic. This is happening here in the United States. Anybody see the movie 300? Like the three? Yeah, mostly guys. That's because that's a guy's movie.
I'm not a guy.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, it's a testosterone-filled movie. One of my favorite movie lines of all time is when Leonidas has got the messenger, and they're all standing around that giant pit. And he says, very grittingly, and it really gets you pumped up, he says, "This is Sparta." And then he kicks him into the pit. Well, that's what I say about this country. This is America. There has never been a nation like this in history. Sure, we've had precursors in ancient Greece, in ancient Rome. They were just the first acts. They were the warm-ups. This is what God had perceived mankind to have and to be when it comes to self-governance. Because if we look at the Constitution, we look at the Founding Fathers, we can see that a lot of that stuff they pulled directly from the Bible. I know you get a bunch of liberals saying, oh, the founders, they were atheists and deists, they didn't believe in Christ. Really? And you see their letters and their speeches, and they reference God and Christ all the time. So I don't know how they get to the point that Thomas Jefferson was an atheist. Thomas Jefferson didn't profess to be any particular religion. You know, he wasn't Methodist, and he wasn't, you know, Foursquare or anything like that. But the man was deeply religious. Read his letters. Talks about God all the time. He wrote, or had a hand in writing, or wrote all by himself, our founding documents. Mention God a lot, don't they? So I don't know how they come up with this notion that we are a godless or atheist or religionless or secular society, because we're not. We never were. And as a matter of fact, the founders used to say, unless one has God, they are not qualified to be in leadership in any government position. And those are the founders. All the way up to George Washington. All the way up to the first Supreme Court, the originalists as they're called. Love those guys. The problem is that we don't have originalists in our government anymore. We have a bunch of people that want to look at foreign law. We have a bunch of people that say it's unfair that this country has done and been able to accomplish what it accomplished. Now you have to understand, we were pretty much forced to become the nation that we are today. Sure, we definitely wanted to, go across the country from coast to coast, build the railroad, expand. Everybody was trying their best to build an America that they believed in. And then not once, but twice, the world decided that they needed a world leader, they couldn't get things accomplished, and they looked to the United States, and we saved their butts in World War I. And then they screwed everything up so bad that we had to do it again in World War II. We didn't want to be the world superpower, because after World War I, what did the United States do? We went back to this cocoon and decided, well, you guys can do what you're doing over there, and we're just going to stay over here. We'll trade a little bit, but leave us out of most of your world affairs. We don't want anything to do with it. We're just going to be in our own little bubble. Until December 7th, 1941, when the world came knocking at Pearl Harbor. And they told us then and there that the world is now too small. You can't be in a bubble or a cocoon anymore. You can't be isolated. The world can touch you anywhere now. And rightfully so, the United States was a sleeping giant, as Yamamoto said. I fear we've awakened a sleeping giant. American people rallied. They stood up, they went to work, they picked up arms, and we went to war. And after World War II, which if you watch all the documentaries, World War II was a bear even for us. But the reason why we were the ones to win is because we had a greater sense of nationality than the Germans did. We had a larger base of manufacturing than the Germans did. Not so much, we always hear, well, because our manufacturing plants didn't get hit by bombs. That had nothing to do with it, because I've seen programs where they've done it tit for tat, bomb for bomb. Even if we were in Europe at the time, getting bombed like Germany was, we still would have outlasted because our base was bigger. We were just a badass country, and we didn't know it yet. We had people that were determined, they were not giving up. Men were off to war, and women, Rosie the Riveter, went into the factories. And a lot of those tanks and aircraft, believe it or not, were built by women. Those men were fighting and surviving, and their lives were dependent on the items that the women of America built. A lot of other countries can't say that. We were united under one cause, under God. So we won. It was inevitable. And if you actually look at all the different battles, especially the sea battles with Japan, you cannot tell me that there was not divine providence that intervened. Oh, we just found their ships by luck? Numerous times where they couldn't find ours. Most of World War II, the United States had one active aircraft carrier. We made it seem like that there were more. We had one. How does a nation win a battle in the Great Pacific Ocean against a nation who outnumbered us by at least 5 carriers? We had one. They had 5. By the time World War II was over, we had more than 10. They had 0. You want to tell me that we're not a badass nation? Sorry, this is the greatest country that ever existed. It's not because of our government, but because of all of you sitting out there, because of the people. And the people have been able to accomplish this because of the documents that our founding fathers gave, called the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, along with the Bill of Rights. That's what makes this country great. That's what a lot of people seem to forget. That's what a lot of people are not taught anymore. They're not taught how great this country is. They're not taught to be proud of this nation. And I got to tell you, it's our fault. We let this happen because we are such a great and powerful and peaceful nation. How many years of peace and prosperity have we had? Really, the last time we were affected by war was World War II. Sure, we had the Korean conflict, the Vietnam conflict, a few other skirmishes here and there leading up to the Iraqi conflict in 90 and to 92. We didn't feel it. As a matter of fact, if it weren't for satellite television, we really wouldn't have known that the bullets were flying in the Middle East under George Herbert Walker Bush as president. I remember where I was when they came on, and he came on and said that he's initiated the first hour of the 100 hours of airstrikes. I was sitting in a car dealership. They had the big console TV in the showroom. There was President George Bush talking about that we're now actually fighting in the Middle East to liberate this small kingdom, principality called Kuwait. But our lives here in the USA went on untouched, unfazed. Now, this is World War II. Women were told they couldn't have pantyhose. Nobody could buy a new car. There wasn't any steel for new cars. Everything was going to planes, trains, and tanks. Women were giving up and donating their cookware, especially if it were copper, to be recycled for the war effort. People were standing in line, not for soup lines, but the bond line at the bank to buy bonds to support the war. But now it's 1992. We don't have to do that. We're not affected at all by what's going on, other than the fact we may know somebody who's actually fighting there, but that's about it. Fast forward to 2001, when we were affected directly. Again, I remember exactly where I was when that happened. I was a sales manager for a computer tech firm. I was sitting at my computer in 2001 when my boss came out and said, "Turn on the radio, turn on the TV. A plane just crashed into the World Trade Center." Now, my first thought was, well, that's happened before in New York City. Planes are crashing into the tall buildings. It was an accident. And then as we're standing there watching the news, we see the second plane hit the second tower. And I looked at everybody in the office and I said, everybody needs to go home. We're under attack. So I proceeded to go home, and then we learned about the plane going down in Pennsylvania. We learned about the plane hitting the Pentagon. And what isn't widely known is President George W. Bush ordered everything out of the sky. Because what we don't know about is that there were at least 7 other jets in the air that were ready to be taken over. We don't know where they were going. We don't know what their targets were. They had at least 7 other teams ready to take over other jets in the air. Go to the White House, I don't know, go to the Smithsonian, maybe hit the Pentagon again. Who knows president was serious. He ordered everything out of the sky, and it was kind of surreal. Now, I'm an Air Force brat. I've lived on Air Force bases most of my life, and all I could hear was the roar of jets. And now to look up in the sky over America and not see or hear a jet for the first time in my life was kind of surreal. Now Americans, this generation, was being directly affected by the events of the world. Again, we didn't ask for it. They just came knocking on our door and wanted to drag us into their problems. Now we can say, well, you know, it's our policies that did it. No, it's not our policies. See, they want to make you believe that we're the bad guys. Sure, the United States is not perfect. We've made mistakes. But understand, this has been going on for centuries over there. If people tell you, well, the Muslims are peaceful, they're peace-loving, they just want to get along with the rest of the world, well, you tell that to Thomas Jefferson in 1801, who said, we're going to go over there and we're going to kick some butt. He developed the United States Marines, and he said, you're going to go over there because they're coming over here, they're draining our treasury, they're killing our merchant marines and taking our boats. We can't have that. We went over there. The Barbary Wars, anybody? 1801, we were kicking butt. And we were not even, quote unquote, a real country yet in 1801. We have more history. Not only did we defeat, sure with the help of the French in 1776, you know, the greatest empire in the world, it seemed to that point, the British. We didn't do it once. Why do we gotta do things twice, by the way? We didn't just beat them in 1776. We had to do it again in the battle in the War of 1812. The British. They were mad. They said, you guys can't be, you know, without us. We're it. 1917, 1918, World War I, we had to defeat the Germans. And then the Germans got so mad, probably rightfully so, because of what the French and the British did to them. But they got so mad that they decided they were going to do it again. We had to do it again. We can't seem to just defeat anybody once, I guess. I don't know, maybe it's like the world is like your kid. Remember how, you know, you say, don't touch that because it's hot. He goes up there and they touch it. Ow, hot, hot. And what does that kid do a day later? That's exactly the same thing. You know what it is? Humans are brain damage. We don't learn our lesson the first time. That kind of fits in with current president. We elected him twice. We didn't learn our lesson the first time. Now make no mistake about it. I am not now, nor have I ever been, a Barack Hussein Obama supporter. I said from the very beginning that if we elect this man, it would be the biggest mistake this country ever makes. I wrote that in blogs. I said that on my radio show back in 2009. It is the biggest mistake we've ever made. And I'm almost always right. Unfortunately, that was one time I wish I was very wrong. And I wasn't wrong. And now we're facing the same thing again. So not only did we make the mistake twice with Obama, but now we want to make the mistake by electing another Democrat right after a Democrat. Now, anybody think, remember, you know, the big grin President Jimmy Carter? Peanut farmer? Now, for those of you who don't know Jimmy Carter, and there are a lot of millennials out there who don't know who Jimmy Carter is, go look it up. Jimmy Carter was largely viewed as the country's worst president ever. You know, he was a bad president. There was no malice in Jimmy Carter's heart. Jimmy Carter was just inept. He was a nice guy, but he was just inept. He had the wrong policies. He believed in the wrong stuff. And that's okay, that happens. But he only had one term. See, America thought that they learned the lesson. Well, we gave you a shot, Jimmy, and you made a mess of things. Now we're going to give this B actor a chance. You know how many actors in Hollywood have gone into politics? Anybody, just as an aside, you remember The Love Boat? Remember Gopher? Fred Grandy. I don't know about you, but I mean, Fred Grandy was not in, I was not in his state, so I couldn't vote for him, but I'm not sure I could walk up to the polls. I know he's a Republican, but I'm not sure I could walk up to the polls and look down at that ballot and vote for Gopher. But he did win. Good for him. Because we don't know his backstory. See, before Fred Grandy, Gopher was on TV. He was a Republican speechwriter. Interesting. Americans do a lot of things before we actually see them. I mean, some people look at me and say, oh man, you're an overnight success. Oh yeah, I've been doing this since 2009. Overnight success. I don't look at things as being overnight or taking too long, because anything that's worthwhile is going to take some time. I develop my craft, and speaking with people, talking on the radio, all that kind of wonderful stuff. But see, I can't take credit for any of that stuff. The talent that I have, or people perceive that I have, comes directly from the guy upstairs. I don't have to work very hard at standing here speaking to you. Sure, I know all the little tips and tricks and how to do this, and you say this many times, and you say that many times. Sure, there's technical stuff in that. But everybody has a natural, God-given ability to do something. The problem is that a lot of today's youth, they don't utilize that natural talent that they have. Instead, they want to be pampered. They want things given to them. If you make them upset, they want to go to a safe space. Can I stop here for a second and ask, what the hell is a safe space? Where is there a safe space from life? How did we get to this point where we've got an entire generation that needs a safe space because you disagree with them? I'll tell you how it happened. It happened when the wonderful baby boomers in my generation, they call it Generation X, decided that because we were so blessed ourselves, that we wanted, each generation wants to give more and make their children's generation better than their own. So we thought that the best way to do that was trying to keep them from all the pain that we face. Remember, you fell down in the schoolyard, you skinned your knees, you got hurt. Okay. You fell down riding your bike, maybe sometimes you bumped your head. Okay. You went to, you played soccer, you played baseball or football, and you lost, and you felt the pain of losing. And seeing the other team gloating about winning, rightfully so, because they just beat you. So all of those parents, they decided, we don't want our kids to go through that because it's painful. So we're not going to keep score at soccer anymore. We're going to overregulate the bike industry and make every kid wear a helmet now. We're going to put in curfews. Okay, you can't ride your bike after. There are communities around this country where a child under a certain age can't ride their bike after sunset. Are you kidding me? We're going to make every kid put on a safety seat in the car. Oh, we're going to get rid of all those wonderful, fun cars. Remember the station wagons where you could, sit in the back seat and wave at all the cars driving at you? Oh, no, that's regulated out because it's for the safety of the children. We don't want them to get hurt. We don't want them to feel any pain. And then we're going to introduce what? All these self-esteem classes. Oh, you're so special. You're so special. Well, if everybody's special, then nobody's special. But we're telling all these little ones, you're so special, you can do or be anything you want. Don't let anybody tell you any different, that you're not special. And those little kids went from here to here. They're now in college, and you challenge their speciality. And then they go, oh my God, you can't do that to me. And they need a safe space. Really? And then you tell them, well, you should grow up. The world is not safe. You're not going to get Mohammed and Ahmadinejad and Putin and Z and anybody else out there is not going to give you a safe space. In fact, they're going to find your safe space and they're going to blow it up. And then they're told, well, you know what? You deserve everything. We're going to give you everything. Parents spoil their kids. You know, I was guilty. Me and my ex-wife were guilty of that. When kids were 7 and 8 years old, they had a 19-inch color screen TV with a Sega Saturn in their bedroom. Who does that? You know, we stupid Americans do. That's who does that. We spoil our kids. Because why? Because we are a prosperous enough nation that we could do that. And we wanted our kids to be happy. We get some sort of gratification by seeing a kid giggle at Christmas morning that they got all this cool stuff. And we're like, yeah, we got our kids that. Not realizing the kids, of course, until they grow up, that mom and dad are in debt for half the year paying it off. But we're able to do that. And we want them to be happy. We want them to experience a childhood, a real childhood. So we say. The problem is now those children are still children. They're 25 years old. And they're saying, well, we just can't make it. You know why they say they can't make it? Because, you know, mom and dad, their parents, they've got the 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2.5 car garage house. It's, 2,000 square feet. I want that. Well, you didn't see the part where your parents started off in that 600 square foot tiny apartment downtown above the Chinese restaurant. They had to start out with nothing. Today's kids don't want to start out with nothing. They want to start out with everything. And so then they turn to the government and say, well, you know what? We've got all this college debt. And we can't find a job. Well, there's two problems with that. First of all, they elected a guy who doesn't care about the American people, because if he did, he wouldn't have the lowest labor participation rate since the Great Depression. We have a terrible economy. That's his fault. Well, actually, it's our fault for electing him. For these kids, they can't come out of college and find a job. But the other problem is that they come out of college and think, you know what? I have this wonderful degree. I have this bachelor's or this master's degree. I'm worth 6 figures. Are you kidding me? You're lucky if you get 20 grand a year. You have no experience. I have a degree. Yeah, so do I. It's a degree in life. I think it's worth more than yours. But then they come out with all this debt. And they complain about, yeah, I got 70 grand in debt, or I got $100,000 in debt. Oh, hold on, time out. Who told you to go to the school that you went to? I didn't tell you to go to Harvard. Why should we pay for your ticket to Yale, Dartmouth, even Penn State, any of those high-priced schools, UC Berkeley, Kent State? Why should the taxpayer foot the bill because you decided to go get your degree, your useless degree? You know, that colleges are very smart. I call them big education, because now they're putting out all of these wonderful degrees to attract these wonderful kids, to pay all this wonderful money. And the degrees are worthless. You know, degrees like historical, underwater, colored water art. Stuff like that. What are you going to do when you have a 4-year or a 5-year or a 6-year degree with that? Nothing. Corporations don't want you because they think, well, if you didn't learn anything, what kind of degree is that? That's useless. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help this company make a profit. Oh, profit is such a bad word. Until those kids get into the tech world, and you got people like Mark Zuckerberg, who are now worth billions of dollars doing what? Giving stuff away? No, making a profit. And paying these kids 6 figures so everybody sees it. Well, geez, if he can do that, then I deserve that. And they can't find that job, so instead of, finding anything to get started, to get some work experience under the belt, no. They're going to stay at home with mom and dad, complain that they have $50,000 in college debt, have the part-time job at Starbucks, and just sit around, and then demand that the government give them free tuition and free this and free free that. Until one day the government says, you know what, maybe we should give you free this and free that. Bernie Sanders, anyone? Until one day you're just like Sweden, Finland, some of those other Northern European countries that give away everything. Until the government says, you know what, that stuff isn't free, we got to pay for it. You know how we're going to pay for it? We're going to tax you into oblivion. Finland's effective personal income tax rate is 72%. But hey, you know, Sweden is just a wonderful utopia place, right? You know, they get free healthcare, free this, free that. Hello, guess what? You're being lied to. I have a first cousin who lives in Sweden and has been there for the past 30 years because he played professional basketball for the Swedish team. He married a Swedish girl, has 2 Swedish daughters. He's been living in Sweden. Black guy that can speak Swedish. Funniest thing you've ever seen. But when I talked to him, I said, well, how is it there? It sucks. It's terrible. We're being overrun. Our taxes are going through the roof. Our governmental systems are falling apart. Wait a minute. I thought we're hearing here that everything is hunky-dory. It's utopia in Sweden. And he asked me one time, which Sweden are you talking about? There is no utopia when it comes to government. There's none. So people always ask me, well, what would you do, Rod? What would you do? I mean, you always talk about things that are negative. You're kind of like Rush Limbaugh. Thank you. I got some ideas for you. I got some really rah-rah ideas for you. How about you look to yourself and your family to develop yourselves to contribute something to society? You know what's going to happen? 2 things are going to happen. First thing is you're going to find some self-fulfillment because you're going to be able to provide for yourself and your own family without government assistance. And 2, you're going to build a stronger community, which in turn builds a stronger government that leaves you alone to do what you do best. See, when government tries to micromanage everything, everything falls apart. The more you ask government to do and the more government does, the worse things get. Now, isn't this funny? Government breaks something, then the people demand that the government come in and fix it because somebody else is at fault for it. Okay, government broke our medical system, so now we have people saying, well, government should pay for the medical system and fix the medical system. Well, government broke it in the first place. How are they going to fix something that they break? They don't know what they're doing. The financial crisis. They told banks, hey, you've got to lend all this money to people who can't afford to pay you back. And so banks did. People couldn't pay them back. So we had the foreclosure nightmare. And then government people came up like Bonnie Frank and says, well, you know, well, banks lend all this money. Couldn't pay it back. They were trying to make all this profit. Well, Barney, you told them they had to loan the money to them. Bankers tried telling me, well, that's not going to work. No. We want everybody to own a home in America. Sure, I do too, but I want everybody to earn that home. Because if they don't earn it, it's just given to them, we see what happens. They're too eager to walk away when things get bad. And when they're too eager to walk away, that's when everything collapses. Because nobody has pride anymore. Because they didn't earn it. If you don't earn that college degree, are you going to really respect it? No. You're going to complain that you got to pay $50,000 back. But if you go and you earn that degree, you're not going to stop until you get the job that you want. Either that, or in this country, which is really cool, if you cannot find a job, you have the ability in the United States of America, better than any place else in the world, to create your own job. Mm-hmm. I did that more than once. While raising a family, while being single. I looked around and said, you know what? I want to do something, but I don't want to do what's available. I want to do something like this. Well, nobody's hiring people to do something like this. Well, how do you do something like this if nobody's hiring? You just go ahead and do it. You create your own business. You create your own company. Where else can you do that in the world? It's not that easy anywhere else in the world. And now we have a government that is making it more and more difficult for people to do just that. They're starting to regulate and price the little guy out of the market. You've got to have $1 million if you want to do some sorts of businesses. You got to have, hey, you want to start a radio station? Try getting through the FCC licensing process. You cannot do it because it's too expensive. I know, I personally looked. By the time I got through the process of getting through the FCC to have my own license, it would have taken me up to 10 years and over $5 million. Now, how is a little guy like me going to do that? They're pricing us out of the market. So how do you do this? You vote for the people who want the smallest level of government. You vote for the people who trust you more than government. You vote for the most conservative candidate available to you that has a legitimate chance to win. Are they always going to be the perfect candidate? No, they're not. A lot of times people, they look at this current election, well, we like Ted Cruz or Rubio. Well, they didn't win. Now the choice is Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. Well, they don't like Donald Trump. I get the fact. I get that fact. I'm not enamored. I love Donald Trump as a businessman. As a politician, I'm not so in love with him. But you know what the alternative is? I have no choice. Right now, Donald Trump is the most conservative candidate available to me to vote for and has a legitimate shot of winning. Now, I know a lot of people talk about Johnson. Johnson's sitting down there around 7 to 9%. He has no chance. Donald Trump is the only one. So what we've got to do is we've got to start some momentum. We had the momentum when we had George W. Bush. You know, we got over the Bill Clinton era. I tell you, it was 8 years of Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky and all that other kind of stuff. Yeah, hey, I'll give my best. I had a lot of fun. And we elected George W. Bush. And then the American people acted like the little children that sometimes we act like, and we threw a temper tantrum, and we voted for hope and change instead of reality. So instead of building on George W. Bush, man, he wasn't a conservative. Maybe not, but look what you put in his place. Well, McCain wasn't a conservative. True, but who would have been better, McCain or Obama? Well, Romney, man. Romney's just another one of those blue bloods. I get it. Who would have been better, Romney or Obama? Do you think Romney would be running around apologizing for America? Do you think Romney would have trouble calling a spade a spade? That's terrorism. No, that's not terrorism. We don't really know if it's terrorism. You can't. It's amazing. You have Obama and Clinton getting more mad at Trump for calling a bombing instead of the bombers. Now, frankly, I have seen a lot in my short time on this planet. I have seen a tremendous amount from these politicos in my short time in this business. I have never seen anything like I have experienced the last couple of weeks. It is clearly a terrorist attack and a bombing. And yet we've got half of the political parties in this country saying, well, you can't call it a bombing. You can't say it's a terrorist attack because we don't know. The hell we don't. He's running, Allah Akbar, Allah, whatever they like to run around yelling. It's like the guy down in Orlando, Florida. He goes and shoots up a gay club, kills nearly 50 Americans. Yeah, so what? They're gay. Big deal. They're still American brothers and sisters of ours. And he walks in there and shoots up the place. And they still refuse to call it terrorism. They instead want to blame the NRA for that guy who wasn't an NRA member, who wasn't a Republican, he was a Democrat, who wasn't a conservative. He's a Muslim, which is the farthest left you can get, total totalitarianism. And yet, we're the ones being blamed. And we sit and we say, well, yeah, maybe we should do something and go along with them and have some gun regulation. Really? You know, I saw a meme with Clint Eastwood. And for those of you who don't know what memes are, they're these pictures that they put on the internet. They take somebody's picture and they put words over the picture. And of course, you know, if you see it on the internet, it has to be true, right? So here's a meme of Clint Eastwood. In other words, say, you know, my idea of gun control is if there's a gun in the room, I want control of it. Now, I don't know if he really said that or not, but I agree with it. People always ask me, well, do you have weapons, Rod? Do you have weapons? Because weapons are terrible. Do you own weapons? Come onto my property without my permission and you'll find out. Because I have a right to protect what's mine. I have a right to protect my life. God said so. I'm not going to call 911 first. I'll call 911 and say, you better bring the stretcher because he's not going to walk out of here. I love people. But let me tell you something. You do not have the right to do harm to somebody else's property or body. All those wonderful protesters down in Charlotte this past few days. Oh yeah, no. They're seeing a spike in women buying firearms. So I would have already had them. They would have come into my business like that, there would be some dead people. All you got to do, hey, you can't shoot them all. You're right. I only need to shoot one, you, and the rest will scatter. People tell you that, and I responded to that once a few years ago. And somebody says, well, you can't shoot us all. I said, you're right, all I got to do is shoot you. And you see the response from their face. You can't say that. I just did. And I'm not taking it back. I don't apologize for anything. If you don't like what I say, and you don't like me, you know what I say? Not my problem. People don't understand that either. Wait a minute, you don't you want to be liked? You're in the business of being, no, I'm in the business of telling the truth. If you don't like the truth, again, that's not my problem. Sometimes I don't like the truth. That's all I'm out for. And the truth is that you've got to go and vote for, let me reiterate, the most conservative candidate that's available to you to vote for, legally, that has a chance to win. If you're dead, you can't vote anymore, sorry. Unfortunately, we see a lot of dead people voting. Unfortunately, we see a lot of people voting twice. You know, that's called cheating. Whatever happened? How is it that we have the wonderful millennials that grow up thinking, well, you can't, that's cheating, you're not allowed to cheat, and then they become adults and cheating is okay. They talk about fairness. Well, fairness is one vote, one person, legal citizen. I'm sorry for the rest of the world. I know we're special. We're 300 million people of special people on this planet because we are citizens of the United States of America. But we're the ones that are protected by the Constitution. We're the ones that get to vote. We are the citizens of this country, not the rest of the world. Well, you know, over in France, they want to see, I don't give a rip who France wants as president. I don't care what Australia says. I certainly don't care what Russia and China says about our politics. It's none of their business. This is our country, not theirs. We're not citizens of the world. This is not Star Trek. I'm sorry to shake it up to people, but we're not one planet. We are different ethnic people from different ethnic backgrounds with different histories. We are still separated by all of that, unfortunately. Sure, I would love for this planet to be like Star Trek and we all run off into space together and we don't have any more problems within ourselves. There's no more war on this planet. I would love it, but right now it is not realistic. The reality is, humankind is what humankind is. We have always been this way and we have not changed. Oh, this is the year 2016. Things have changed. Yeah, times have changed. Technology has changed, but humankind has not. We still want what? We still want freedom, personal. We still want to provide for our own families, do we not? We want to eat, we want to survive, we want to live in peace. Tell me how that's different from today than it was 10,000 years ago when they wanted the exact same thing. The only difference is that they had to do it in a different way because technology was different. So today, we're still the same as we were back in prehistoric days. And by the way, those people were not as stupid as we think. We still can't figure out how they built the pyramids. We're not as smart as we like to think that we are. So those wonderful people who are very erudite sitting in Washington, D.C. and in Brussels think that they're so brilliant. They're not brilliant. The problem is that they're more stupid than you or I because they don't realize how ignorant and dumb they are. So when you get somebody like Donald Trump that stands up and says what people have been wanting to say for a very long time, they're going to cheer him. So we got to cheer him on. Fortunately, he's what we got. But we can build on that. We can take Donald Trump and build on that in 4 years and get somebody who's more conservative than he is, and then put them in office, and then find somebody who's more conservative than that person, and then put them in office. And we can keep building and building. What we got to stop doing is taking a step forward and 2 steps back. Because this country, if we can get out from under Obama, cannot afford another. If Hillary Clinton is elected, it will change the entire being of this country until at least the year 2100. We're not going to be around. Hate to say it, you know, I don't like talking death and stuff, but are you going to be around? You think you're going to be alive in the year 2100, 22nd century? Unless medical science is able to completely replace our bodies and our heads, then most of us will not. It's just the way life is. But what are you going to leave behind? Are you going to leave behind stories? Yeah, my grandfather used to tell me stories of America when. Is that the legacy you want to leave? When America was great. When? That's what's going to happen in the year 2100 if we go down the wrong path today.
Can I add something to your conversation?
Sure.
Bill O'Reilly has put out a book that I think every person should read, and it's called Legends and Lies, The Patriots. And I don't know whether you watched his series or not. It was on Sunday evenings at 7 for an hour. And I learned a lot about our founding fathers. Like you were saying, they didn't necessarily believe in a specific religion, but they were all very religious men. And the book is very interesting, and right now it's on sale at Barnes & Noble's till the 25th. So if anyone is interested, I have a copy if you'd like to borrow it. It's a very good series.
Bill's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Give him that much. Personally, the reason why I'm out here is because I still believe in America. I believe in the American dream. Well, what is the American dream? Well, the American dream is what you are capable of dreaming. That's what it is. And no, I'm not running for office. I don't want power. And I know a lot of people say, well, you're the perfect person to run. Yeah, but you know what? I like being a private person so much as being a private person is these days. I have no desire to go to my state capital or to Washington, D.C. God forbid somebody actually elect me and put me in Washington, D.C. I don't have a calling from God. If God says, you know what, now's the time for you to do that, then I'll do it. Till then, I can't do it. But I tell you what I will do. I will stand here, I will be on the air, I will write the articles, I will write the books, to do everything within my power to help protect and promote this country. Why? Because my name is Rod Eccles, I'm an American citizen through and through, and I believe in this country because this is America. Thank you. Good question. I'll take any question. No, there's no bizarre questions, trust me. I've had some bizarre ones. Yes?
You've, I'm sure, been following all the polling and the research and really the perception and what the liberal media wants to